Hey fans, it's Zach and Luke alongside head coach Rob Murray, assistant coach Zac Desjardins as we wrap up the season as far as the awards go. We've interviewed the players individually on the awards that they've won, and this year, obviously, a very different season overall. And well, I guess we'll start with you, Murr, and Zach. With how did you guys select? The players that did this. Did you guys sit down together? See what the I guess you could say the different awards were, and go from there and kind of chat back and forth on who you guys thought was deserving as to which awards.
Well, Zach's got a really big hat, and we put all the names in a hat, and so that's how we did it. Yeah. How do you think we did it?
Come on, Zac.
I didn't know if one of you had more input than the other. If you guys kind of just went through. But
no, I'm nothing gets by me, Zac. That's why I'm at the big desk.
Yeah, he does have the big desk for that reason, for sure.
Well, but we'll start off, I guess, with the rookie of the year in Gregg Burmaster. We talked a few times about him this season. He had 14 goals by the end of the year. He'd had a taste of pro before, but was underneath the rookie requirement of games played in the ECHL. So, maybe a bit of a head start because he had played a little bit in the SPHL, but still very new to this league. And we saw him score the opening weekend of the season. Scored some big goals the opening weekend of the season. And, what is it that you guys think allowed him to have that success so early?
Well, I think that originally, and we've talked about it, I recruited him for the season last year. And, he made a decision to go to Norfolk, and I respected that. I mean, it's not something that doesn't happen quite often, and guys decide to go somewhere else. As I've told you multiple times, if every player I talked to came to Tulsa, we'd have a roster of 100 guys. So, but he had the guts to kind of come back at me last summer, and I had interest. And he came in, and we were really impressed with him at training camp. He brought a lot of good things, and then, as you said, he got off to a really good start. And his season, with every rookie, there's going to be ups and downs, and in and out of the lineup at times. But he stuck with it, and stat wise, I mean, he turned his season looks really good. I mean, on paper, and obviously on the ice surface too.
Coach Desjardins too. I mean, just working with a guy like Gregg Burmaster, I think when you evaluate a rookie, of course, you're sort of going to look at his 200-foot game. Is there another dimension, to this player that you feel you can really drag out as his career moves along? And, looking at Gregg Burmaster, spurts of greatness and some droughts, just as it goes for every player sort of trying to mesh their way into the pro level. What type of next level dimension do you think Gregg Burmaster can really find as his career moves along?
Well, I think this year, Gregg, when he was in the down part of his season, he was asking questions on how to get better. And, he's not only coming to us as a staff, but he's going to the older players like Pleskach and Taylor, just asking like, hey, what can I do to be better? And I think that was what some rookies are like a little tentative at doing in the locker room, of asking for help. And he was the opposite. He was asking a lot of guys, what can I do to be better? And I think he started to add from, a little bit of offense, and then he started to learn a little bit more defensive side of the game. And, we talked about, how to properly go into corners and attack players. And I think throughout the season he got better with that. And like I said, he just wants to learn as much as he can from everybody, and he's not scared to really ask for help,
We've talked about it. He's a guy that can play a lot of different positions. We've seen him play the left wing. We've seen him play center. We've seen him play on the right. And then we've also, was it one or two games, during that peak where we were missing some bodies, is Gregg Burmaster's playing some defense. When you have a player like that, how does that help out with everything, especially in a year like this year where, I mean, especially before that, the break where we had all the safety protocol issues. I mean, it kind of maybe tensed up thinking about how are we going to fill the lineup every night just in case someone does go down?
Well, the versatility that Burmaster brings, I mean, I think you need it on every team. I mean, it's a convenience for us to have a guy, a forward that we felt comfortable putting back on defense. I mean, we didn't use him there very often, yet when we had him there, I mean, he was part of the rotation of 6. So, you know, he showed that he could do that. And, you know, to Zach's point about learning and getting better, like one of the things I think that Burmy has to get better at is, we've talked about it, winning just individual battles, you know, just throughout a game. I think that's something that he can really concentrate on coming back. And realistically, you know, the only thing that I can see of him, if he improves on that, he's only going to get better and better.
Looking at you know, our next sort of flip of the coin, I guess you could say, is to look at the defense. And as somebody that, boy, was just a solid rock all season long, without a doubt, and in my mind stuck out more and more as the season went on, was Justin Hamonic. Defensively, this team has had a really good core over the past few years, and especially this season. And you look at Justin Hamonic's numbers all the way from really going through the majority of the season, or almost about half of the season without a penalty minute. You got to really recognize, you know, as fans and everybody, just how important it is to have somebody disciplined at this level of hockey. And really just to start with that, his discipline in general. Hamonic, he plays such a responsible game. You know, obviously that had to go into choosing him as Defensive Player of the Year.
Well, yeah, and I think that that was a real toss-up. I mean, you know, between him and Mike McKee. I mean, you know, they were partners all season long, and did a great job. I mean, we asked them to play against the other team's top line every night of, you know, 72 games season. And outside of a couple games when Mike was out or Hammer was out, I mean, they were a tandem the whole season, and they did a great job. You know, Justin was, again, a guy that I was familiar with coming in, and not only had I coached him, but I had coached against him through the years here, and he has not only, you know, his defense, you know, he gets Defensive Player of the Year, yet he's topped any point totals that he's ever had in his career also, and he, you know, that was really nice to see, that, you know, the offensive output by him that helped us on any given night. So he brought a lot of dimension to the game that maybe is overshadowed by how well he played defensively. And as you said, you know, he's a very disciplined guy, but, you know, the penalty minutes are kind of a smokescreen really to how physical he actually plays. I mean, he is a physical player. He has the ability to know maybe just how much to get away with, or the way he plays the game. He plays a very clean game, and because of that reflects in his penalty minutes.
You know, Zach, when it comes to the defense during the game on the bench, you know, you work with those pairings and getting them out there and working that back end. You know, he might be a person that spent the least amount of time on the bench, because, you know, he might have been up there for total time on ice leaders. But, you know, with him, what's his demeanor like on the bench? You know, he's a player that's not a veteran by game status number, because he's spent some time in Europe. But, you know, I mean, he's a veteran player there. And, you know, what is his relationship maybe with the younger defensemen around on the bench as well?
I mean, I think Hammer, like, he just leads by example. He was very quiet. But, you know, when he said something, the guys listened to him. And obviously he just leads by example. I mean, they knew he was on the ice, and they watched what he did, and how, you know, like Murr was saying, how simple he makes the game, but yet he was still physical on it. And, you know, some of our guys, I think the younger guys, tried to do too much. And when you see Hammer and the ice time that he was getting, that he just simplified the game, and they started to, you know, ease back and say, hey, it's not 100% the whole time. It's reading the play and doing what we have to do. And, you know, you watch Hammer on the bench, his emotions pretty much flat. You know he's thinking, but, you know, he's not getting overly excited or fired up, and he's just going to play the best he can while he's out there.
You know, sort of sticking in that vein here, we'll start with you again here, Zach, just on the fan favorite award here. A guy like Mike McKee, and really, you would be able to relate this to us just as well. For Hammer, what's it been like, maybe from his perspective with working with a guy like Mike McKee, who's been there, done that, not only in pro hockey, but in this organization. And it's just been truly a guy that deserves the A on his jersey, Mike McKee.
Well, I think Mikey and Hammer, like, they got along. Like, it's just two big guys. They sort of known the roles coming up through youth hockey. They probably played the same type of game. Hey, I'm going to be the shutdown defenseman. I'm going to be playing the roles that, a big guy's got to play. And they communicate all the time. And, obviously you see Mikey, he gets a little fired up. But Hammer, I think, also was the calm to Mikey. Like, hey, Mikey, we got to calm down. And, I think the both of them just fed off each other on and off the ice. You could just see after we finally sort of made them the pair to be with, how they sort of like made each other better, and they pushed each other both that way.
A winning fan favorite, obviously an honor, and there's a lot of factors that probably go into that with Mike. Fans obviously like the physical aspect of the game, but on top of that, I mean, he's great with the fans, great with kids. In a normal year with all the Sunday skating, he seems to just have a crowd, almost a magnet of pulling the kids in toward him. And you were a guy that played a physical game when you were a pro as well. And it kind of seems that, when you have guys like that come through the organization, they seem to kind of be the better people with the fans, the guys that play physical. And, maybe off the surface, you would think they would be maybe the more standoffish, but have you kind of thought that the guys like Mike are just typically better with the fans? And how often does a guy like Mike come through that just kind of captures the heart of a fan base?
Well, I think that, quite honestly, like guys like Mike, guys that play that role, and you're right. I mean, it's not just us. It's every team. It seems to be the big tough guy seems to be the fan favorite, and also the guy that, as you said, is very sociable and gets out into the crowd, and it's a guy like Mike is grounded, and he's a modest kid because he knows his limitations, and he knows what he brings, and he does it to the best of his ability. And I think that for that reason, it tends to maybe be just that. You know what I mean? Like he's one of the people, and he shows that in our obviously this year we didn't have the opportunity to mingle with the crowds, but we've seen it in the past 3 years. I mean, this is his 4th year here, and he was a fan favorite from the day he walked in the building. So, it goes hand in hand, but like I said, I think guys, and myself included, like, I mean, I was a modest guy, and I still am. And what he brings, and I think it's very attractive to the fans. And I think that goes for a lot of these guys that end up being the fan favorite, because you do see that it's not the guy that scores the 100 points. It's the guy that sticks up for his teammates and is very approachable by the fans that end up being these guys that get fan favorite.
And then, if we continue down the list, Garrett Cecere, a player, I guess if we're talking about physical stature, a bit smaller than Mike McKee, plays the same position, maybe plays a little bit different, that kind of offensive style. You guys elected him as the most improved player this season. He played about roughly 25 games. He was a late addition to the squad, not coming here right off the hop. But he was a guy that came in, was skating with Des Moines during the summer, so he had kind of had that time to adjust coming in. But he found himself cemented in the lineup at the end of the year. And we had kind of mentioned it about some other guys earlier this season that had taken that 6th spot, and they didn't want to be the 7th guy. And then at the end of the season, it was Garrett Cecere that really snatched up that 6th spot. And what is it that you saw that really improved through Garrett from maybe day one that he was here coming up into this last game of the season?
Well, it's actually, quite honestly, it's, as a player, it's a goofy award to get, most improved. And I was telling Zack and Tony in here the other day that I played with a guy named Scott Levins in Moncton, and he won it back-to-back years. And so I remember him sitting on the bench when he got the award, and he looked at me and he said, how bad was I when I first started, and which is true, like he got better and better. But if you look at it that way, he got better and better. Yet he was like, I must have been just atrocious when I first started. But Garrett's a guy that I think that we gave him this award because not only, with the best improved in our eyes. I mean, like he's played in this league. It's not something new to him, but he was a guy that stuck with it. I mean, he was in and out of the lineup but the attitude that he showed when he was not in the lineup, I think that went a long way with us. And for that reason, he's a guy you were cheering for to have success. And I thought that, especially late in the season here, he really, his game came kind of rounded, and that's why he maintained his position in the lineup for this last stretch where we've done so well. And he's a big part of that. I mean, he did a great job on the power play the last handful of games, and for that reason, again, he got the most improved from what we had seen throughout the team. I think he stood out to us.
And Zach, looking at a guy like Cecere coming from the Eastern Conference, just how different it is, and it can be on different levels of playing in the Eastern Conference compared to the Western Conference this year. And is there anything that stuck out in your mind, maybe just in helping him sort of adjust to maybe the style of play that allowed him to sort of really mold back into a game that he was really comfortable with? Putting him on that line there, or that pairing that is with Garrett Cockrell, seemed to really give a jolt as well, just with the familiarity.
Well, I think with putting him with Garrett, he was able to build his confidence because they have played together. And I think throughout the year working with Cecere was just, reminding him that the speed and the size difference. I think we're a little bit more physical, where the other side is speed. So I think he had to reposition himself on, hey, I could jump up, but just having that body position, even him being a littler guy, just making sure he was in the right position not to get burned. And I think when he first got here, he was getting burned wide, but then he worked on it and got better, and he wasn't getting beat as much wide, and he was able to use his stick and his knowledge once he got the puck on the stick. I mean, towards the end there, it just seemed like it was permanently attached to his stick, and, the other team wasn't able to get it off of him. So I think him just finally realizing the difference in the divisions, and he was able to push through and make it better every time he stepped on the ice.
We also have the Vic Poole Never Give Up Award, kind of, I guess you could say, a work ethic award, as a player that just, has never given up and continued and exemplified every single night, what it takes to play at this level and to be a great teammate. And Alex Kromm is the winner for that this year. And, remember, we've talked to you about it before. You said, hey, I would take 10 Alex Kromms on my team if I could. We saw him pick up the hat trick the other night, which was awesome to see as well, adding into the physical play with some offensive numbers, just close to his career highs as well, which he had last time he was here in 18-19. And, with him, what is it that, we've talked about the details, and as a guy, you always talk about how he's a great locker room guy, and that when you first had to make that trade, that was something that hurt you because he was so liked in the locker room. What do you mean by, great locker room guy? What is it that he brings to the room that everyone seems to gravitate to?
Alex Kromm's just a really good man. I mean, he's very cheery. He's upbeat. He's a guy that everybody, like you said, gravitates to, and it's very noticeable right off the hop when we brought him in. Like he just mingled real quick. Like he wasn't sitting back. He took that leadership type role. And the one thing about when you talk about never give up type attitude. So you can look at the timeline of this season. He started in Jacksonville. He was traded there from Toledo last year. He didn't make the team. He got cut at the beginning of the season. And then for a guy like Krommer, like to then go down to the Southern Professional League, like it shows you how much he loves the game, how much he just wants to play. Guys that's even guys that we've had through the years at training camp, and I bring him in at the end of training camp, and I'm releasing them, and I said, hey, I've got a good relationship with this guy down in Macon, or the guy down in Huntsville, or wherever, or Knoxville, and they want nothing to do with it. It's below them to go to the Southern Professional League, whereas Kromm just wants to play. He's a hockey player, and so seeing him there, right away. I think he only played one game in Macon, and right away I said, I got to get him back. And his work ethic, his ability to come across as that guy that guys have to look up to on the team. Again, it's such a value for me to have a guy in the locker room like Alex Kromm, and he's a guy that for sure, in my mind, like he's never going to give up, and he loves playing the game of hockey, and I love him for it.
And Zack, just being on that bench too, you look at a work ethic award, and you always, sort of look at the film initially. Are they bringing a consistent game each and every night, physically on the ice? But what has to go into that award too is just the energy level. From game 1 to 72, whether you're getting moved teams and leagues or not. It just seemed, at least from the outside looking in, not being able to be around the players as much this year, that the energy level there for Kromm was always there, consistently finding a way to be on the optimistic side on that bench. And when you look up and down that bench in certain moments in the game when you need energy, he's got to be one of those guys that you don't have to tap on the shoulder and say, hey, let's get it going.
No, I mean, I think Kromm, like Mur said, I mean, he just loves the game. He just wants to play. He never gives up. I mean, there was games where we're winning and he's still out there blocking shots and making the big hits or sticking up for a teammate, or, we'd be losing. And it's like, guys, we're, pack it in. But there's Kromm taking another shot to the shins and blocking shots again and, making the big hits and, again, sticking up for anybody and everybody. I think he was one of the leaders in majors this year. I mean, for a little guy to do that, not little, he's still pretty big in stature, but he just showed the never give up attitude, and he just wanted to pass it along. And I think when you see Kromm doing that, the young rookies are like, hey, we're not giving up, let's keep it going. And then the vets are like, well, if the rookies aren't giving up, we got to keep it going. So having Kromm always being that positive attitude on the bench and never to lose and never to give up, he did it for the love of the game, and it starts to rub off on the other players as well.
Final award belonged to the offensive MVP of the team, and it's a guy that led in assists and goals in Adam Pleskach, a player that led in goals quite a few times over the last few seasons, but this is I think his first year in quite a while that he led the team in assists as well, and of course leading in total points. And you just see it every night. He's a guy when you need a big goal, he seems to find it. He does them on the power play, led the league in power play goals this year. But, he can obviously do it at even strength. And Mur with Adam Pleskach as a player, was he a pretty easy selection for offensive MVP? And, with him as well, what do you think maybe led to him leading the team in assists, being able to maybe find, I guess you could say, more of a playmaker mentality a bit during the year?
It's because Danny Moynihan retired. That's why Plesh got the award. For Adam Pleskach, and I've said it before, like there's a lot of naysayers about Plesh. He can't skate. He's doesn't have great hands. Like the goal that he scored on Friday night of last week when he beat the defenseman wide, it's about determination. It's not about your God-given skills and ability. Like Charlie can skate around anybody out there, and we know that. But there's other guys on the team that the determination isn't what the level that Adam Pleskach plays at. And when it's all said and done, every year, 20-plus goals. And that's not an easy thing to do. Even at this level, it just doesn't happen. So, for him to be able to do that year after year after year, he's just such a consistent player that it's amazing. And I'm really happy for him that he ended up having the season he did. And when you say he's leading the league in power play goals, like, it's actually surprising because I don't think for the first 20 he might have, like, it took him a long time to get going on the power play. So, you know, the 3 goals in Kansas City didn't hurt a couple weekends ago, but you know, again, you know, when you talk about Adam Pleskach, to me, it's determination. I mean, he will not be. He's determined to get the game, like, to do what he can do to help the team win, and he shows it every night.
And Coach Desjardins sort of being able to look at a player on that bench. You mentioned something about Gregg Burmaster earlier in this show, just about leaning on some of the veteran presence to find a way to get better. And you look at Pleskach's game, something that's grown really on me and just my experience here in the organization is just how well he plays in the corners and down low. And you want to be a high producing offensive player that is a playmaker in its true form. You work really well down low and winning battles. And is there anything that you've seen with Pleskach, maybe in just how people can lean on his consultants and finding a way to get better in those areas of the game that have just allowed him to not only be a great individual player offensively, but to be almost like a little bit of a mini training camp for some guys that are really trying to develop themselves through him?
Well, I mean, I think when you watch Plesh, like you said, like, he works hard in the corners, and, you know, some of the younger players like Burmaster, he's used to the college game where it's you're wheeling, you're cycling, where, you know, Plesh is in the corner, he's making, you know, rubbing and getting dirty in there, and then he's taking it right to the net. It's not, hey, let's cycle it around and let's keep going around in a circle. It's, you know, Plesh is like, let's get the puck, get to the net, and go hard. I mean, he doesn't go to the net crashing soft. I mean, you know, he started a couple scrums where he's just goes and he goes hard to the net, and where, you know, some guys are like, oh, goalie's got it. Well, Plesh was there until the whistle went. And I think towards the end of the year, Burmaster and some of the guys are starting to realize, hey, he is being successful because he keeps going to the net. It's annoying people, and it's driving them insane. And, you know, as you see the points that Pleskach gets, it's because he doesn't give up and he's always driving towards that net.
That's what we've got for the awards, but, you know, some other news being announced today, Murr, that you've signed a 2-year extension. All you have to do is, you know, kind of look at the social media channels that the team has to see that the fans are really excited and happy that you're coming back, and obviously, you know, the team as well. And exciting times, two more years, you know, minimum with you behind the bench. And you know, is there anything you kind of want to say to the fans, or just about the decision to come back?
Well, I appreciate that, Zach. Yeah, I don't go on social media, so I'm not sure what anybody's saying about me. But yeah, you know what?
Good, Murr.
What's that?
So far, I've seen all good things. So.
Okay, good. I'm sure you'll tell me all the bad things. So, you know, it's a situation where I want to continue to do what we're doing here and continue to improve the team. You know, a little bit of disappointment this season that I want to rectify and get us back into the playoff race and get us in the playoffs again so that we can have success as we did 2 years ago against, going 7 games against Toledo. So, you know, as I said in my press release there that you got my quote for, Zach, that, you know, I love this team, and I love the city of Tulsa. It's really grown on me. I love being here. It's a great place to live, you know, for myself and my family. And, you know, it's something that I want to keep going. And you move around so much in this job that you need to put down roots somewhere. And like I said, I really enjoyed here in Tulsa, and the fan support, the people I've met, it's phenomenal. And you know, I think that it's only going to get better and better as we move along. And we're getting to a point where I really feel that Tulsa, to free agents, to players, I think we've put together a good culture here that it's going to be a destination spot. Like, it's going to be a place where players want to go. You know, right now, yeah, every player wants to play in Florida. Everybody, maybe, you know, potentially Allen is attractive because it's a big city of Dallas. But, you know, Tulsa, Oklahoma is going to, you know, start popping up as that place where players want to play. because of the culture that we've developed here, Zac and I, that, you know, it's a good place to play, not only the surroundings, the facilities, but, you know, we get a very tight unit every year with the guys. And I think that's something that will be shared when players are asked about, you know, what was it like in Tulsa? And I think that is going to lead to better things down the road.
Yeah, and Coach Desjardins, I'll even give you an opportunity just to comment on that, you know, as a tandem, just as a coaching staff in general with you too. You know, you got to lean on each other for a lot of different things. You know, at this level, you know, you don't have the analytics staff like the NHL level does. There's a lot of different things that a coaching staff has to juggle within a season to not only find success, but consistency in that success. And what's it been like just working with Coach Murray in what is very unique season this year and just the entirety of the time you've had each other as a pairing?
I mean, I've learned a lot from Murr. I mean, from on ice and off ice, you know, just learning, you know, the numbers and how to talk to these players. I mean, when you're talking to, you know, younger kids from juniors where I started off to talking to these guys, there's a little bit of difference, and it's just earning that respect. And on ice, it's just how to keep the game calm. I mean, I know there's some games where you see Coach Murray's face getting a little red from the fans, but you know, it's just that passion. I mean, you can see some coaches, they'll yell, but they're yelling for no reason. I mean, I've learned to sort of gain that passion again from Coach Murray, and it's just been a blast working and learning everything I can from him.
Well, thank you guys so much for not just doing this, but for everything you guys did this season to keep things rolling. And it was a difficult year, and obviously making the sacrifices with the bubble and everything beyond that. Of course, you know, if you guys weren't there to keep the wheels on the bus and rolling along with Tony and Steve, well, we wouldn't have jobs. So, you know, thank you guys for everything this season, for letting us have a season in a year where a lot of people didn't. And thanks as well for doing this and taking the time.
You're welcome, guys.
Thanks, guys. And thanks for all your time this year, guys. All the work that you put into.
Thank you. We'll catch up with you guys for pregame tomorrow then.
It's like it's a big love hug right now, isn't it? It's a Thursday aw.
There you go.
All right, guys.
All right. Yeah, take care.
Thanks, guys. Pleasure.